Welcome back, friends. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating stories in human history, the rise of ancient Greece. A civilization of warriors and philosophers, poets and politicians, dreamers and doers. The Greeks gave us democracy, epic myths, Olympic games, breathtaking art, and philosophical ideas that still shape our world today. But how did this small collection of city-states, scattered across rocky hills and islands, become one of the most influential civilizations of all time? Let's find out together. To understand the Greeks, we have to start with their stories. Greek mythology wasn't just entertainment, it explained the unexplainable. Why does lightning strike? Zeus. Why do the seasons change? Persephone. The Greeks believed the gods lived on Mount Olympus, watching, guiding, and sometimes meddling in human affairs. These myths created a shared identity among scattered communities long before they thought of themselves as one people. But beyond myth, the earliest Greeks, the Minoans on Crete and the Mycenaeans on the mainland, laid the foundation of Greek civilization. By the time Homer composed the Iliad and Odyssey, tales of warriors like Achilles and Odysseus had already become cultural glue, binding Greeks with a sense of destiny. Think about it, how many of our modern movies, books, and even video games borrow from these same myths? From Hercules to Wonder Woman, we're still retelling their stories. Fast forward to around 800 BCE, and Greece starts to look familiar. Instead of one big empire, Greece was made up of city-states, or polis. Each polis was fiercely independent. Think Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes. Athens was known for art, trade, and ideas, while Sparta was all about discipline, strength, and military power. The rivalry between them shaped Greek history for centuries. But here's the twist. Even though they fought like siblings, these city-states shared a language, religion, and culture. They competed in the Olympic Games, honored the same gods, and even came together when outsiders threatened them. Sound familiar? Small nations today often face the same question. How do we keep our independence, but still unite when it matters? Now, let's talk about one of Greece's greatest gifts to the world: democracy. In Athens, citizens, well, not everyone, but free men, had the right to vote on laws and decisions. This was groundbreaking. Imagine standing in the agora, listening to speeches, then casting your vote on war, taxes, or leadership. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Women, slaves, and foreigners had no voice. But the very idea that ordinary citizens could govern themselves, that was revolutionary, and it still inspires us today. Next time you hear someone say, "Your voice matters," thank the Athenians. They were the first to test that idea on a grand scale. The Greeks weren't just philosophers and poets, they were warriors. The Persian Wars tested their unity. When King Xerxes marched his massive army into Greece, it looked like game over. But against the odds, the Greeks held their ground. Think of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, fighting to the last man, becoming legends. Or the Athenian navy at Salamis, using clever strategy to sink the mighty Persian fleet. These wars weren't just about survival. They showed the power of freedom. A people fighting not for a king, but for their way of life. Victory over Persia opened the door to Greece's golden age. Athens blossomed under Pericles. They built the Parthenon, a temple so stunning that even in ruins it leaves us speechless. Theatre thrived. Tragedies by Sophocles and Euripides, comedies by Aristophanes. Philosophy reached new heights with Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, asking life's biggest questions. What is justice? What is truth? What makes a good life? This was Greece at its most creative, a spark that still lights our modern world. But golden ages don't last forever. Athens and Sparta, once united, turned against each other. The Peloponnesian War dragged on for nearly 30 years. Athens' democracy faltered, Sparta's dominance faded, and by the end, Greece was exhausted. Internal conflict made them vulnerable, and that's when a rising power from the north, Macedonia, stepped in. Enter Alexander the Great, a name that still carries weight today. Tutored by Aristotle, he dreamed big, really big. By the time he was 30, he had conquered an empire stretching from Greece to Egypt, Persia, and even into India. Alexander spread Greek culture far and wide, blending it with local traditions in what we now call the Hellenistic Age. Cities like Alexandria became centers of learning, science, and trade. In a way, Alexander made Greece immortal. Even though the political independence of the city-states was gone, Greek culture lived on. So what's the legacy of ancient Greece? It's in our politics, democracy. It's in our art, architecture, and literature. It's in our philosophy, still asking the same questions 2,500 years later. The Greeks showed us the power of ideas, of questioning, of striving for excellence. They weren't perfect, far from it, but their story is proof that even small nations can leave a giant mark on history. And now, I'll leave you with this question. What will our civilization be remembered for 2,000 years from now? Thanks for joining me on this journey through the history of ancient Greece. If you enjoyed it, give this video a like, subscribe for more deep dives into history, and let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Until next time, stay curious.